most importantly, let's head on down to Citizens Bank Park with our guy, John Foley. Because, John, you had a chance to hear from Rob. You got some post-game comments and updates for us. Another sweep and this time against a team over 500 in the NL Central leading Milwaukee Brewers. What did Rob have to say post-game after this 2-0 win and another game that the Phillies just showed how they're the best team in baseball?
Yeah, how about that? I guess the series actually counts. Is that how this works? That the Brewers were
a real series,
leading the NL Central? There's a real series, and they came out, took all three. The bats weren't quite there, but the pitching and defense dominated. I mean, this is just a team that can beat you in so many different ways. They can come out and hit four home runs, or they can do what they did in this series and just dominate with the pitching staff. So the questions for Rob, I mean, there's not, there were some questions about London, preparation for that, how they're doing. It seems like they've got everything nailed down there. They're excited to get over there. I asked them, basically, Rob, everything's going so well. Is there anything that you're concerned about? And he responded without missing a beat. He said health. He said he's always worried about the health of his players. It's easy to forget with all this winning going on that they are down. Trey Turner. Suarez, I think Renee, you just gave an update. It's looking pretty good on his end. It sounds like he's on track to probably pitch in London. Knock on wood. But other than that, I mean, everything's just going right. This team is rolling. They're firing on all cylinders.
John, what did Rob have to say about man of the hour, Nick Castellanos? We'll get to Aaron Nola in a second, but looks like Casty, between last night and today, I mean, hell, the man just kind of went out there and won you a series in a way. What did Rob have to say about Nick?
Yeah, Rob, obviously happy with Nick's performance. You've seen it here and there. Castellanos would have a good game or two, and you would say, okay, maybe he's finally heating up. I think this week you've really got a string of good games that he's put together. And you see his numbers starting to climb in a respectable territory, and you think, okay, Nick's heating up now, and that's going to be a problem for the rest of the league.
Yeah, it is. And it's great to see because he's one of the last pieces that we've been waiting for, essentially, to get clicking a little bit more and get out of that slump. Aaron Nola is someone that hasn't been slumping, knock on wood, has been pitching very well. We saw that again today, giving up just 2 hits on the day and 7 innings pitched. What were your thoughts on Aaron Nola's performance coming off of his birthday yesterday, takes the mound today, now a 31-year-old, and showed exactly why the Phillies have one of the best pitching staffs across Major League Baseball?
Yeah, 31-year-old Nola. What a way to celebrate, huh? Just an absolute gem. Rob said that he thinks in his last inning there that he pretty much left it all out there on the field. So he didn't really think about giving him another inning after 93 pitches. But that was pretty good. That was good enough. Hand the ball over to Hoffman and Alvarado, and you feel good about your chances. If you have even a 1-run lead, it's not scary in the slightest to take out a starting pitcher that's rolling and bring in somebody else for the 8th.
John, they just scored 7 runs in a series and swept a division leader. They have 4 of the top 6 best ERAs among starters in the National League. Do you think it is fully set in yet with the average Phillies fan, like just how special this is? This is like insanely special. Do you think it's set in for most people yet?
I honestly, I don't think it has. I think, to be in the moment and you sort of start looking at the numbers, it's really hard it's hard for a person to just process all the great things that are going on. And you talk about pitching. I mean, this Frozen.
No, I'm sorry. I just spoke. They just should not have swept this series, scoring 7 runs.
No, scoring 7 runs. And it speaks to the way sort of the identity of this team is changing. For several years, it was ball, go, boom, right? We were talking about the home runs and when the bats went silent, they didn't win these games. But now this is a team, you could make the argument that their identity is based around pitching and defense. I mean, with those starting pitching numbers, with the relief pitcher numbers, you take a look at the ERAs for Hoffman, Kerkering, Strom. Hasn't given up an earned run in 25 appearances now. Alvarado, his ERA is still a little off, but you feel great from an appearance or two very early in the season. But you feel great about Alvarado coming into the game. You don't feel any concern there. So I think it does take time for, I think, fans and everyone, writers, commentators across the league, to start to realize that this is a very different iteration of this Phillies group. This is a team that can beat you with their pitching and defense, and you just threw those numbers out there right here for this Brewers series. You're not supposed to sweep the Brewers scoring 7 runs over 3 games. That's remarkable.
It's insane is what it is. And we had mentioned before, John, the last time that the Phillies were able to sweep a team with 7 runs between the games was back in 1966, versus the Mets. Very fitting. But for this group, injuries have become the small concern. That's always a concern with how long the season is. And I know in the chat it was asked about the updates. Obviously, we've got Cody Clemens with the back spasms. He's on the IL. You've got Brandon Marsh, who was put on IL, both on just like the IL-10. But Marsh with his right hamstring. Were there any updates around injury status? We know Rangers making great progress, but anything around Marsh or Clemens?
Yeah, it sounded good about Ranger. Rob didn't have an update today on the other folks. One thing he did mention, they get to bring a few extra guys over on the London trip. It sounds like they're going to bring the catcher, Rafael Marchand,
Nick Nelson,
Marchand,
and there was one other.
And Marchand, Nick Nelson, and Derek Hall. Long Ball Hall is going to head over to the UK and introduce the fans over there to 500-foot home runs. So,
John, anything to read into Marchand going over? Does that mean, is word on JT that he's all right last night? He took a beating. I mean, I'm sure his nuts need a little bit of a rest, but like he also took a shoulder shot too. He kind of got beat up a little bit last night. Any chance we don't see him in London?
Yeah, I mean it's possible, depending on. I get the impression he's banged up, but not injured. I think we'll see him play. I saw an injury report that had everyone's specific ailment listed in parentheses, and for Real Muto it just said soreness everywhere because he's been getting banged up, banged around. But he does get he gets rest on the travel over there. He gets rest on the travel back. I think you'll see him play in London. I wouldn't read too much into Marchand being on the roster.
Okay.
I think but to the extent that there is an issue, you want to have more than just Stubbs as a catching option, right? And I think Cody Clemens is the emergency catcher, and he's dealing with an injury of his own. So I think it's just that. I wouldn't read too much into that for Real Muto.
Yeah, I do think with the luxury of being able to bring extra guys, why not make sure you have some depth and have yourself covered just in case JT is injured or anything like that. So always better to have extra and not need it and bring in somebody like Marchand along. Plus with the travel and it's a lot of factors that weigh into it. But John, 2 quick questions for you before my final questions at least is one, I know it was asked about your hat. Is this a Georgetown hat that you're repping?
That's a Georgetown hat.
I knew I saw the Hoyas.
Went to school there. So,
There you go, repping your school.
Smart kid.
Yeah.
Smart kids. Yeah.
Wicked smart.
Yeah, wicked smart kid.
But also, obviously we had a chance to chat with you in studio yesterday, but it's now been 3 games, a sweep, and 3 games where we get to see a sweep against Rhys Hoskins. The overall emotion today, we got another applause, which seemed a little bit over the top because we've already had plenty of
too much
fanfare for Rhys Hoskins. But this should be it. This should be it for the any sort of applause or ovations for Rhys at this point. But this series really felt like the best way to go about beating up on Rhys Hoskins and the Brewers. It was competitive games. It was low scoring. It was, great pitching. And then you got to give Rhys his moments. What are your now seeing this win over the NL Central leader Brewers and a sweep at that? What are your thoughts on this group and just how they were able, final thoughts, I guess, for you on how they were able to sweep this series?
Yeah, final thoughts for me. I'm with you, Renee. That's a wrap on ovations for Rhys Hoskins. I love him. He was my favorite player on the Phillies for a long time, but we got to let him go now. We got to set him we got to set him free. Future Wall of Famer, all that good stuff. But right now, the Phillies have a championship to win, and then he's part of the enemy. He's and part of one of the teams that's probably going to be right there in the postseason. And the other takeaway I would say is I want to see. I don't know when they come up in the schedule, but and I don't. Everyone complains about the teams they're playing. Now they've played the Brewers. I don't know who else they need to play. I guess the next test would be the Dodgers, a series against the Dodgers, and look forward to that.